Fentanyl's killing everybody.
Fast
weed
food's killing
kills nobody. I've always said the best way to get killed by weed is you take a 35-pound bag of it and drop it on your head from a CIA drug plane. That's
how people die.
That's how you die from weed. Shut the fuck up.
In today's video, I'm going to react to this viral clip of Joe Rogan talking about how weed doesn't kill anybody. Because although I'm not aware of anyone who's ever overdosed on cannabis products, weed certainly has killed people. And there's 3 different types of scenarios where this can happen. And we're going to talk about each of those scenarios in today's video. Now, if you want to learn more about our products designed to help people quit cannabis, or if you want some of our free PDF documents on how to quit smoking weed, which mostly focus on mindset, be sure to check out the pinned comment in the video description at the end of today's reaction. Cannabis kills people in 3 ways. It has to do with Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome, weed-induced psychosis, and then lastly, you can be alive but completely dead inside. So scenario number 1 can result in actual death, and this is a condition called CHS, or Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome. This is where a person who's been smoking weed for a prolonged period of time winds up getting very, very ill. And there's usually 3 stages to this syndrome. Stage 1 usually just starts off with this nausea, stomach problems. Stage 2 of CHS results in constant vomiting, and this is where people can die because they'll vomit so much that they'll become dehydrated and malnourished, and the dehydration and the malnourishment can result in kidney failure, it can result in cardiac failure, or just generalized death resulting from malnutrition, okay? So cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome and the complications of that syndrome that can result from continuing to smoke weed if you have that condition can and have resulted in death in people. So you can die from weed. Now, it's not a weed overdose, which makes it different from other drugs and which maybe gives more validity to Joe Rogan's point. I'm not aware of anyone who's ever overdosed to death on weed like you can fentanyl or alcohol or pretty much any other drug out there. Maybe even nicotine you could, I suppose. But yeah, CHS, problem number 1, definitely can and has killed people before. Problem number 2 would be cannabis-induced psychosis, okay? And there's actually tons of cases of cannabis-induced psychosis connected to very, very violent crimes, many of which are murders. There was actually recently a case out of, I believe, California, where I think she was like 28 years old. This woman stabbed her boyfriend 108 times to death. And basically what she said was, look, I'm kind of newer to smoking weed, despite that I've smoked weed before. He should have told me that it was a stronger strain of THC. She hit the bong, went into the state of violent cannabis-induced psychosis, stabbed her boyfriend to death 108 times. Ironically enough now, I think in that case, they're pleading for her to be let off with just a slap on the wrist, actually with, I think, almost no repercussions. And they're blaming it on the boyfriend for not telling her that it was a stronger strain of cannabis. So just an interesting case. I have no opinion on that matter, but she's not the only case of cannabis-induced psychosis that I've read about. I actually have a PDF that we put in the pinned comment in the video description that talks about several different scenarios where we've seen extreme violence and death resulting from psychotic episodes of cannabis use. And I've actually worked with younger people. I've worked with parents of kids who have been suffering from psychosis due to cannabis. And not only is there violence that can result from it, but also really, really high levels of suicidal ideation. I don't know that suicide has ever been attributed to cannabis use, but I know that higher levels of cannabis consumption are associated with higher levels of suicidal ideation in people who did not demonstrate those behaviors prior to cannabis consumption. It wasn't that they were suicidal and then decided to consume cannabis. They did not have those thoughts. They did not have those behaviors, started with cannabis, and then those thoughts and behaviors went up. And I wouldn't be shocked if that's resulted in some self-inflicted death. The last scenario, which is more what my channel tends to focus on, is you can be alive but completely dead inside, right? You can live life without actually living. And this is often the case for people who are suffering from cannabis addiction. Cannabis may not kill you physically, but it can definitely kill your finances. It can absolutely kill your relationships. It can wreak havoc on your physical health and on your mental health. When one declines, the other one usually starts to go coincidentally, you can go through life struggling with cannabis addiction alive. You're walking, you're talking, you're going to your job, you're interacting day to day with people, but you can be completely dead inside. And the areas of life that make life enjoyable, for some people, this is spirituality as well. They lose those areas in life, and it's like just a walking person who's completely numb. They've lost all major emotions, and they're just kind of going through the motions day to day, struggling with addiction. And this is a scenario where I think is horrible. Being alive, but being completely dead inside. And I've spoke to a lot of people who struggle with cannabis addiction who can relate to this. You know, having struggled personally for nine years with addiction, I know exactly what that feels like. And there were points throughout my struggles where it's like I might as well have not been alive, right? Not that I was ever suicidal, but it felt like I don't really care either way if I live or I don't. And that's the reality of addiction. So I completely disagree with Joe Rogan on this. I know with certainty cannabis has killed people before. I think there's different ways that cannabis has been responsible for the death of people. And when I say cannabis responsible for the death of people, obviously that accountability is on the person consuming the drug, but cannabis has been involved in the death of people before, for sure. If you wind up enjoying this content, check out the pinned comment or the video description if you want to learn more. And if you're struggling to quit, withdrawal symptoms, cravings, things like that, check out our Kick It Crave Less chewing gum product. I pinned the website in the pinned comment below. It's a chewing gum with KSM 66 ashwagandha and N-acetylcysteine designed to help promote focus, reduce cravings, and ultimately get you kickstarted on your quitting journey. It also kind of helps with like anxiousness and stress and things like that. All right, guys, good luck until next time. Let me know what you think in the comments. Am I right? Am I wrong? Is Joe right? Am I wrong? Let me know.